going to build upon what Craig just went through for some of the industry use cases. And just to emphasize, we used to call our stuff RPOS, retail point of sale. For those of us old timers, POS means something very differently as an acronym today than it once did. But more importantly, what you're going to see here is these products, because of their ruggedization, because of their flexibility in terms of configuration and use case, and because of the long life cycle, they fit in other vertical markets outside of retail. We'll touch on those, but we've opted to change the name to Retail and Industry Solutions, or RIS for short, because of that. So we rebranded a couple of years ago, and I think it's really a better reflection of what we can deliver and what we can help you folks deliver to your customers nearby. So as an example, and this is sort of sweet spot, right? So this is our all-in-one terminal, the G2 that Craig talked about. It can sit on the counter as a standard point of sale device. We have the ability to give it an aesthetically beautiful sort of look, limiting the cabling that you see in the picture on the left side of your screen. But beyond that, because it can be ordered as a head-only unit, it can be mounted to a wall, mounted to an arm. So think of endless aisle applications. Think of a customer coming in and perhaps scanning a loyalty or a frequent shopper card to check points, maybe redeem some coupons, kind of that thing. As Craig mentioned, all four edges of this all-in-one have the ability to utilize a barcode scanner that would be completely flush mounted or inside of the touch head. So this could be mounted to a wall, and now you've got price checker capability with the barcode scan either at the bottom or on one of the sides of the touch head. And with the G2, we've actually added an additional Visa mount option. So if you don't need any connectivity outside of power and Ethernet, it's an easier mount with less overhead for some of the connectivity options here. Also, because it's a part of our kiosk offering, there's as Craig mentioned, both a countertop and floor pedestal mount stand for the kiosk, and some additional peripherals that we can mount there to give it a fit, whether it's doing standard retail sort of checkout, perhaps it's doing QSR, unattended ordering. Maybe you're going into the school, your kids, middle school or high school. Typically, you have to check in. Sometimes they'll print a badge for you to wear as a visitor. Mounting this to the wall or setting it on the counter in the reception visitors area gets used frequently. We see the touch head mounted to a wall when you walk into a doctor or a dentist office where you're checking in for your appointment. As you'll see in a few more slides, in a medical healthcare setting, the kiosk itself, we use it for patient check-in, tied into Epic's Welcome software. So because it can be mounted on a stand, on a counter, on a wall, on an arm, on a pole, there's almost unlimited ways that this touch head and the three screen sizes, 15.6, 19.5, and 24-inch, in portrait and landscape orientation can be utilized. Same kind of thinking here. This is just showing grocery retail. Again, a similar kind of deployment of specialty retail. One of our partners, Fujitsu, is actually using the touch head by itself and mounting it to their entire catalog of self-checkout devices. So whether it's a single pole, simple kind of kiosk, or a multi-bagging station with cash recycling that you would find in a grocery setting, this touch head can be mounted to all those things and fit the bill for the Fujitsu folks. Hospitality, again, sort of self-explanatory in the touch perspective, but this gets used not only in the front of the house, but also in the back of the house. We have folks that will use the larger screen sizes, 19 or 24-inch, and use it as a kitchen display system because they're able to touch a screen to move orders around, or they can touch a bump bar and do the same kind of thing. And of course, we talked about the unattended ordering that is kind of the wave in the QSR fast casual setting because of cost of employees, and maybe even more importantly, finding quality employees to be able to handle those kinds of transactions. In transportation and logistics, just as an example, if you were a United Airlines employee and flying through one of their hubs in Newark, in Chicago, or in Houston, they have an Engage One Pro head mounted to a pole, And as an employee, if you're having problems with your laptop or any part of your technology, in the employee section, you can go up to the screen and begin your ticket creation to get service work done. So the idea of an unattended ticket creation from a servicing perspective is just another extension of what this might look like. Of all the additional verticals outside of retail, and retail in the broadest sense of the term, healthcare is probably the one that we see a lot of our product most readily adopted. And in the case of our all-in-one, a couple of quick things come to mind. Number one, the kiosk. I mentioned we have a number of hospitals will use it for a patient check-in. Walk up to it, do your work on the touchscreen. In a couple of cases, we have worked with our partner Havas to create a what I'll call a square cup holder in the front of it to insert a small scanner as a part of Epic's welcome application. They want to scan your driver's license and scan your healthcare card. And we leverage that by putting those on that little scanner. The information gets sucked in as part of the check-in process, and off you go. So kind of an obvious sort of use case. Certainly in an unattended, most of these healthcare facilities or campuses now hard to get around. So there's a wayfinding aspect to it that is sort of interesting. We have a partner out of the Carolinas that does on-premise pharmacy kinds of things. And even though it's a traditional use case of pharmacy checkout, because it's all on campus from when the doctors order it or provide the prescription to have it fulfilled on campus. Another use case there. Certainly in a cafeteria setting. We actually have a couple instances where the Engage One Pro, the head itself, is mounted to a wall outside of a surgical setting so that the doctors and nurses can interact with the touchscreen, providing patient update information. I should mention that one of the things that we've done to make this even a better fit in the healthcare setting, particularly on the Engage One, but we now meet the electromagnetic standards criteria for these devices to be near patients in use cases. They are also able to be wiped down with medical grade antimicrobial wipes up to 10,000 times. And we've just received our certification, I guess, if you will. There's an operating system found in the healthcare space called iGel, IGEL. Think of it as sort of a thin client-esque type of operating system. And the Engage One Pro and a couple of the other products have received the iGel Ready moniker, again, meaning that it's designed and works with that operating system in the healthcare setting. It also mentioned that the 24-inch screen, beyond being used as a kiosk kind of device, is a terrific nurse's workstation. So you think about a ward with the nurse's area kind of in the middle, having that 24-inch screen for the nurse is the size that they're used to, providing tons of information, easy accessible with multiple screen mounting things to make it fit in that kind of environment. So another use case in the healthcare setting. And the touchscreen itself allows you to work with gloves, or people be able to touch through their gloves, again, common in a healthcare kind of environment. Talked a little bit about the public sector in that there's typically a touch screen at every school campus for visitors to check in. Same kind of device you would find like the Engage One Pro G2, be it sitting on the counter or mounted to a pole arm or a stand. Manufacturing, maybe not the kind of place or kind of environment you would think of, but remember that it's ruggedized, it's got the long life cycle. Because that touch head has has some peripheral built-in options. We've actually seen this for door entry because I can swipe a card, I can scan a badge. There's a biometric fingerprint option that are all built in that touch head, like Craig said, on the inside of it, and that's sort of the Frankenstein connectivity to it. An extension of that, if you will, there's one of the casinos out in Vegas that replaced Chronos time clocks with one of our touch heads because we can have those peripherals built into it, and the employees can swipe a card, scan a badge, use a fingerprint for access into the system. Had one environment where we attached a touch head to a forklift, and there was a power supply on the forklift that was driving the the touch had, and they were able to do the data entry that they needed to while they were moving throughout the warehouse logistics environment. So some kind of interesting use cases, and it's because of the rugged design and the way that we've provided options for the peripherals to be built into that touch head. Um, for us, OEMs means that we're taking our hardware and selling it to somebody else who's embedding it as a part of their solution. The touch heads here, obviously, some of the kiosk manufacturers we use our components. I would say Fujitsu, and then the description I provided earlier about the self-checkout for the grocery environment is a good example of an OEM sort of setting. When we get to one of the modular ones here, there's more of an interesting story that I'll touch on as well too. Okay, so into the mobile world. Lots of use cases for mobility, as all of you are aware. What we found is there's an awful lot of folks willing to try consumer grade devices. Think Apple iPads, think Microsoft Surface, think the $200-300 disposable kinds of things, and find out that it's not really built for a retail or any kind of commercial environment. And so when they come around and have to buy their second or third time, they're really seriously then starting to take a look at more of a commercial grade device like HP offers with their Engage Goes. So the ability to go mobile within retail should be self-evident. We saw with COVID all kinds of use cases, particularly purchase online, pickup at store, curbside ordering, curbside delivery, the ability to have payment, have barcode scanner built into it, made that a highly desirable option for a lot of the retail space. In healthcare, a number of use cases. I mentioned the pharmacy example with the Engage One Pro. We have a meds to beds where the doctor will walk in and write a script on the tablet on the Engage Go 10 as a part of that, bringing prescriptions up to the patients that are in the hospital bed. Doctors walk in room to room, meeting with patients, updating patient charts on the device itself. We have a number of folks doing that with the Epic EHR application, which is sort of the industry standard in the healthcare space. Think of mobile home delivery, where they're going to the patient in their home, providing a service, making notes, making records, occasionally taking payment via credit card. They can deliver that as well too. And again, though, the final one we talked a little bit about patient check-in, again, using the Epic welcome app. When you walk up, the receptionist can hand you one of the devices. You go sit down, do all of your data entry in it, and provide it back to them to check in and start the process of your appointment. Because it can have a barcode scanner built into it as an option, the barcode scanner is a 2D imager. So not only can it read QR codes and UPC, but it can read patient wristbands. It can read the barcodes on prescription labels. So again, a nice fit in that healthcare setting. And again, is iGel ready, has the antimicrobial cleaning built into it as well too. So a really neat option in the healthcare space. And folks like Anderson Cancer Center, Mayo Clinic, KU Medical, just some examples of where they're using our mobility devices in and around the healthcare campus. Self-service or kiosk, ours is branded as Engage Express. You'll find a number of the components or a number of the pieces that Craig went through on the inside or part of other manufacturers' offerings. We do a lot with Meridian Kiosk as an example out of North Carolina, and they'll use our devices on the inside of their kiosk to drive the peripherals for the units that they're building. And the Express can fit any kind of environment, whether it's an informational device on a college campus, whether it's taking an unattended payment, think going in to pay your cell phone, going into the city hall to make a utility payment, or maybe even a online payment for your property taxes. These do not have cash recycling, but they do have ability to attach payment devices to the device. And with the Engage One Pro G2, we have an option for NFC, so you can use the NFC tap and go, if you will, in a soft payment kind of setting, like the folks that at Felix Payment and others providing today. We think soft pay is really at the very beginning stages of the hockey stick acceptance rate, if you will, coming over the next couple of years. So we've done a nice job, I think, of future proofing some of the devices and having that as a built-in option for today. So, like I mentioned, self-checkout in all kinds of environments, and it's simple informational style kiosks, again, in any kind of environment, be it retail, be it school. A library system, we've got some folks using it for book return, book checkout, all a terrific fit. Talked a little bit before in the healthcare setting, but again, wayfinding throughout a healthcare campus, being able to walk and do the admissions with the option of having a scanner to read healthcare cards and driver's licenses. Um, certainly frees up the folks at the front counter to do other things and provide a higher level of service when we can provide this self input type of option for the patients. Similar kind of thing in the banking public sector. Uh, Occasionally, the private bankers are busy. It can be get very busy on the inside of the retail branch automation. So the ability to have some of the cross sell options that banks want to provide to their customers in an unattended kiosk makes a lot of sense. People are already very familiar using ATMs at banks. So the idea of self-use unattended devices within the branch is an easy extension for what you're used to on the outside of the branch. Um, a nice fit. Again, kiosks are ubiquitous across all verticals. I'm not telling you probably anything you don't know already, but we play in that space obviously as well. Okay, in the modular space, this is how we got into the point of sale business 20 plus years ago with a device for Publix grocery store. And what we've seen over these 5 generations of this particular platform over those 20 plus years is it's like the old Timex ad, right? That takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Um, Healthcare OEMs in particular are a big user of some of our modular devices, and I'll show that here in a second. But having a modular device, think a traditional looking kind of PC, but having a 10-year life. And instead of chasing an 18-month to 3-year life cycle like you would get from HP PCs or Dell or Lenovo or others, is something that you'll find a lot of folks interested in and maybe not know that that's an option for them. So as you're meeting with your prospects, mention the idea if they would have an interest in a long life cycle desktop kind of box, and the modular devices that we have here are a terrific fit. So to get specific, the Flex Mini, this is the ultra small form factor Craig described. It's 7 inches by 7 inches by 2.5 inches, and it can have, or it has a Visa mount built into the chassis. It's our baseball utility player, if you will, at the beginning of the baseball season. And by that I mean you don't typically see it, but it is behind the large monitors for digital menu boards because it can have 3 audio outputs, and so one box can drive 3 screens. That Visa pattern allows you to mount it behind a 21-inch, 23-inch, 25-inch, a standard commercial monitor, and somebody can create their own workstation with this all-in-one workstation with that built in. I mentioned Meridian. A number of kiosk folks will have this on the inside of the kiosk, driving all the peripherals on the inside of it. Next time you go into your local Subway sandwich shop, Subway uses it for all of their video surveillance. All the cameras in the store are tied into that because it can have multiple terabyte of storage in that small form factor. So something that you don't see very often, but it's there. We sell a lot of these in places that you might not even be familiar with. I mentioned the um, digital menu board option in a hospitality setting. We also work with one of the largest kitchen display system manufacturer providers, and they use the Flex Mini to drive a number of their solution sets because it can have multiple screens in the back of the kitchen, robust in terms of the how it withstands that really difficult environment in the kitchen area with the heat and the food prep kinds of things floating in the air. Um, the one I really wanted to hit on The form factor, the Flex Pro and the Pro C that Craig discussed, we use these a lot. If you, hopefully not too often, but if you ever have to go in for an X-ray or to get an image via an MRI machine, or sometimes simply even attached to a medical cart, you'll find one of our modular devices on the inside of it driving all those things. Again, the long life cycle, they create the image at the beginning of the 10-year run, and they don't have to worry about the image changing over the life cycle of the device, and provides a higher degree of uptime for those medical devices. One of the really interesting use cases I forgot to mention, I want to make sure that I do, particularly with our all-in-one touch head, the Engage One Pro. The telehealth and telemedicine is here, and it's going to become bigger and bigger, depending on what happens to a lot of these rural hospitals. So we have a number of partners that will take an Ergotron cart or something like an Ergotron cart. They're using the Poly camera that HP resells, the Poly speaker bar that HP resells as well. On the very top of that, they'll mount our 19-inch Engage One Pro on the top, right underneath the Poly devices, but on the our Ergotron cart. They'll have a couple other pieces of medical stuff, a counter on there, and they'll send these out again doing telehealth, telemedicine. One of our partners out of Boston, last time I was in their office, was shipping out 100 of these to an indigenous tribe in Alaska, and that's what they were using for telehealth because the doctor was hundreds of miles away in that huge state, and this was allowing to solve a solution set for that. So uh, um, next time you're in the doctor's office and they reel in the blood pressure cuff for taking temps, and you might find one of the Engage Flex Minis as an example at the bottom of that cart with the peripherals attached to it driving it. Again, the flexibility of how these can be mounted and deployed make it almost unlimited in terms of kinds of places where it might be able to go into: banking, healthcare, schools, manufacturing facilities. In fact, we've got some of these devices on one of the Tesla manufacturing floors for car manufacturing. So um, keep an open mind as you're thinking about that, because we might be able to help you go places you've not been able to go to and unlock a new revenue stream you've not been able to.